Okay, it looks like we are ready for our final section of Chapter 4. We're going to be doing solving two-step inequalities. I had originally planned on having you guys do the activities in the beginning, but it really made for a long video, so I am scrapping that. We're going to move directly to the first example, so let's go ahead and do that right now, please. We're going to be working with two-step inequalities, and we're going to be solving these problems much the same way as we would solve two-step equations. The only real big difference with this is going to be the rule of when we multiply both sides by a negative or divide both sides by a negative. As you know, when that happens, we're going to have to flip the inequality sign. But aside from that, it's the exact same steps as we learned with the equations. I recommend you slow down, take your time, and you'll do much better that way. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Here in our first problem, it's an example problem, we have 5x minus 4 is greater than 11. So I'm going to rewrite this over here. 5x minus 4 is greater than or equal to 11. Okay? And so let's go ahead and treat this like we would any other type of equation. So as you know, with the two steps, we're going to go ahead and we're going to undo our subtraction first by adding. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. By doing this, we're going to undo the subtraction of 4, leaving us with 5x. And then the greater than or equal to comes down. And then 11 plus 4 gets us 15. Now we're left with a simple one-step inequality. So we're going to divide by 5 to undo the multiplying by 5. And we end up, they cancel out, and we get x is greater than or equal to 3. And if you look over here, we're going to go on the number line, we're going to go to the right from 3. We're going to do a colored in circle, a shaded in circle, because it's greater than or equal to. All right, so let's take a look at our second example. I'm going to shift something real quick. Okay, and so for this example, we have b divided by negative 3 plus 4 is less than 13. And we are going to start off by undoing our addition by subtraction. So minus 4 from both sides. And the 4's cancel out, leaving us with b divided by negative 3. And then we have 13 minus 4, which gives us 9. And the inequality sign remains the same. At this point, we have to undo the division of by negative 3 by multiplying by negative 3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. And the 3's cancel out, leaving me with b. And then 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Now notice we multiply both sides by a negative. That means, as we learned in chapter 4.3, part 2, it means we're going to have to flip the sign, so it's now greater than. So we end up having b is greater than negative 27. And so, as you see in the graph over here, we're going to go to the right of negative 27, and it's going to be an open circle since it's greater than. Okay, so hopefully now that you've seen a couple examples, you're able to tackle a few of the practice problems. So go ahead and try out number 1, 2, and 3, and I'll check in with you to see how you did. Okay, let's take a look, see how you guys did with these 3 problems. So for number 1, since we have 6y minus 7 is greater than 5, we're going to have to undo the subtraction first by adding 7. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So by doing this, I have the minus 7 and 7 cancel out, giving us 6y. And then 5 plus 7 is 12. I have 6y is greater than 12. So now I can divide both sides by 6 to undo the multiplying by 6, giving me y, and 12 divided by 6 is 2, and it's going to remain greater than, because we had no negatives involved when multiplying or dividing. So I can go ahead and graph this now, and let's see, I'm going to use 1, 2, and 3. Oops, 1, 2, and 3. Let's try that again. 1, 2, and 3. And when I graph this, it's going to be open and to the right. That's how your first graph should look. Let's take a look at our next problem. We have 4 minus 3d is greater than or equal to 19. I know this looks a little bit different than the last problem because we're subtracting the variable, but that's okay. We're going to still treat it the exact same way. We're going to undo our 4 by subtracting 4, because we know 4 minus 4 is 0, which gets rid of it. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. And by doing that, these cancel out. As you notice, I have minus 3d. So the minus 3d comes down as a complete package. So I have negative 3d, and then 19 minus 4 gets me 15. And so I can bring down my greater than or equal than sign. So I'm going to now divide by the coefficient, negative 3, on both sides. And they cancel out, leaving me with a d. And then 15 divided by negative 3 gets me a negative 5. And since I divided both sides by a negative, that means I have to flip the inequality sign to make it less than or equal to. So there's that solution. I'm going to go ahead and graph it. And with this one, I can do negative 6, negative 5, negative 4. And I'm going to make it a closed circle. And it's going to go to the left. So there's number 2 for you. All right. Let's take a look at our next problem. We have w divided by negative 4 plus 8 is greater than 9. I'm going to first undo the addition by subtracting 8 into it from both sides, of course. And by doing this, the 8's cancel, and I get w divided by negative 4 is greater than 9 minus 8 is 1. And so now I can go ahead and multiply both sides by negative 4. And by doing that, the negative 4 is canceled, giving me a w. 1 times negative 4 gives me negative 4. Now, since I multiply both sides by a negative, I have to flip my inequality sign, giving me w is less than negative 4. And I'm going to go ahead and graph this now. I have negative 5, negative 4, negative 3. And I can go ahead and make this an open circle and to the left because it's less than. All right. Hopefully you did pretty well on the first 3 examples or example problems for you guys to do. These would be practice problems. Let's just take a look at our next problem to look over together. Okay, well, with this problem, we have a distributive property going on. So that's going to be our new little twist, which should not be a problem for you. We're going to have negative 7, and then parentheses x plus 3, parentheses less than or equal to 28. Going to distribute that negative 7, giving me negative 7x plus negative 21 is less than or equal to 28. All right, so this is our problem. We again have a 2-step inequality, And we need to get rid of the negative 21 by adding 21. If I add it to the left, I need to add it to the right. And when I cancel the 21s out, I'm left with negative 7x. And then 28 plus 21 gets me 49. Right? And it's still going to be less than or equal to. Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7, the coefficient. These cancel out. I'm left with x on one side and negative 7 on the other. And since I had less than or equal to and I divided by a negative on both sides, I have to flip it. So now it's greater than or equal. End up having x is greater than or equal to negative 7. And so I want to know which graph represents this. Well, it's going to be to the right and closed of negative 7. So it's not going to be A or C because they're both going to the left. And it could be B or D. However, D has positive numbers, so it can't be that. So it must be B, as the numbers in the intervals are negative. So the correct answer is B. All right, so we're going to move on to our next set of problems here, and you're going to be doing inequalities with distributive property. So I want you to take a moment to answer these 3 problems and check back in with me when you have finished. Okay, let's see how you guys did with these 3 problems as well. All right, so we're going to first distribute. Get that out of the way. So I'm going to have 2k minus 10 is less than 6. And I can undo the subtracting of 10 by adding 10 to both sides, giving me 2k is less than 16. And I can now divide both sides by 2. And I finish off with k on the left side and 8 on the right side. Since they are both positive, the sign remains the same. So we have k is less than 8. It did tell us to graph, so we're going to graph our answer here. And we have 7, 8, 9. We're going to do an open circle. And it's to the left because it is less than. Fantastic. Okay, let's try our next one. We have negative 4 times n is negative 4n. See if you get caught by the tricky one. If I could make this into plus negative if it makes more sense. If I have negative 4 times negative 10, that gets me positive 40, so it's going to be plus 40. Hopefully you weren't fooled. Is less than 32. I'm going to go ahead and undo my addition by subtraction on both sides. And strike that. It should be 40, not 4. Almost made a huge error. That would totally change the answer, wouldn't it? Hopefully, I'm glad I caught it. It is early, isn't it? All right, so I'm going to subtract, and by doing that, these cancel out, and I get negative 4n. And 32 minus negative 40 is negative 8. And it's less than. I'm going to divide by negative 4. And the negative 4's cancel out, giving me an n. And then negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2, but since I divided by a negative on both sides, I have to flip my inequality sign. Alright, so I have a 1, a 2, and a 3, and it's going to be open circle, and n is greater than 2, so it's going to go to the right. Okay. Finally, for our last problem here, number 6, I'm going to go ahead and flip my sides right away. So I'm going to have 0.5 parentheses 8 plus y, and then the greater than is facing it, so it's going to be greater than or equal to negative 3. Now I can distribute, and so 0.5 times 8 gets us 4 plus 0.5y is greater than or equal to negative 3. All I did was simplify. Now I'm going to subtract the 4 to get rid of it on both sides. And when I do that, the 4's cancel, and I get 0.5y is greater than or equal to negative 7. I can finish by dividing by 0.5. And the 0.5's cancel, giving me a y. And then negative 7 divided by 0.5. Then I divide the negative 7 by 0.5, which gives me a negative 14. And since I divide by positive on both sides, I'm going to keep the sign the same. That's my final answer. I can graph this. I have negative 15. Negative 15, negative 14, negative 13, and it's going to be closed and to the right, and there's my graph for that one. Okay, so let's take a look at our final problem. This is a real-life application. So a contestant in a weight loss competition wants to lose an average of at least 8 pounds per month during a 5-month period. How many pounds must the contestant lose in the 5th month? Okay, we're looking at the 5th month to meet the goal. You can write and solve an inequality. Let x be the number of pounds lost in the 5th month. All right. So, if you've never done one of these problems before, this is kind of what you're going to do. We are given months 1 through 4 over here. We don't know what the 5th month is, right? Oops, this is our 5th month. It's X. We don't know what it is. And so if we want to figure out the average, you have to have an average. Well, how do you do an average? You add up all the numbers and you divide by how many numbers there were. Well, there are 5 months, so we're going to add up all of the pounds lost plus the unknown amount divided by 5, and that would give us the average, and we'll see what it needs to be to have 8 or more pounds lost per month during that 5-month period. So we have 12 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 right over here, plus that x. So which it gets us 34 plus x. And we can undo, that's simplified now, that we can undo the division first. I know some of you struggled on the test with this last chapter. You got to undo the division first by multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5 because that cancels these 5's out. And now we have 34 plus x equals 40. And we're going to subtract 34 from both sides. Shame on them, they didn't show that. And we get x is greater than or equal to 6. So the contestant must lose at least 6 pounds to meet the goal. So you're going to try this last problem now. It's the exact same thing, except for now you want to lose an average of at least 9 pounds per month. And you're going to use the exact same table up top on the right-hand corner to solve this. So go ahead and give it a try and see how you do. Okay, well, let's go ahead and see how we did here. We're going to go ahead and first identify our variable. And so our variable is how many pounds must the contestant lose in the 5th month? So P we can put down as number of pounds. I'm going to do LBS, pounds, in the 5th month. Okay, that's what we're going to do here. And so we're going to set up our inequality. And again, we know we're going to divide by 5. And so we know we can do 12 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus x. And it's going to be greater than or equal to, because we can lose more than that weight, but we have to have at least 9 pounds. That's where the 9 is going to come in. So we're going to simplify, giving us 34 plus, I'm sorry, I should have used a p instead of an x. My apologies. Yikes. Hold on. Wow, a little bit of technical difficulties. I apologize for that. Still getting used to the software. I made a mistake there. So again, let's try that again. I meant to put a p up here, not an x. Let's try that again. So I'm going to end up having 34 plus p divided by 5 is greater than or equal to 9. And now I can multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of that 5. These 5's cancel out, giving me 34 plus p is greater than or equal to 45. And now I can subtract the 34 from each side, giving me p is greater than or equal to 11. So my final solution would be he must lose, here I'll do this, right. Oh that's bad, he must lose 11 or more pounds in the 5th month. All right, well, hopefully you did pretty well with this. This kind of wraps up our final chapter, and we are ready to come to a close on chapter 4 and get ready for our next test. So if you have any questions, you know how to find me. I will see you next time. Thank you very much.